Well, welcome to the second talk in our series about the chakras. And tonight we're going to focus on the second chakra, the sacral Svadhisthana, which is probably the chakra that causes the most problems in the world, to be honest. And it's interesting that it's been written in the ancient wisdom teachings that our particular root race, one of our major collective remits, if you like, is to develop right relations between the sexes and right sexual relations. So this is all Svadhisthana comes in here. So Svadhisthana is very much, it's about the water element. It's about change, about movement, about flow. It's about the emotions, your sexuality. It's about nurturing. It's where basically we move from the survival of the root chakra up into that which makes life sweet. So Svadhisthana means sweetness, and it's what makes life worth living. So from basic survival up into pleasure, movement, nurturing, sexuality, creativity, and change. So we have an instinctive inclination to move away from pain and toward pleasure. Now, on a higher level, this is the pleasure of connection with our soul. The pleasure of the expansion that brings, and the surrender to our higher self and our path. On a lower level, it brings the lower desires where we come into the world, what we call the world of Maya and illusion, and that pleasure, almost hedonistic pleasure of just moving from one thing, one distraction, one addiction to another, to avoid looking at the higher aspiration of the soul. So it can be a double-edged sword, Svadhisthana, of desires to be overcome and lower desires to be overcome and higher desires to follow without attachment. So to suppress pleasure, as being spiritual teachings in many faiths, is not what we're talking about. We're talking about walking a middle line, walking the middle road here, because to suppress pleasure disconnects the mind from the body, and when that's not what it's about, that's not going to bring us to our full development. So it's about lifting the lower desires up into higher aspirations. So you could think of it as like climbing the mountain of initiation. So as we climb higher and higher up those spirals of the mountain, we are overcoming those lower desires, letting go those attachments, and coming into a higher connection to our soul and to those higher aspirations. So the idea is that the mountain goat that is climbing that mountain, our personality, has two horns, and that's duality. And this Svadhisthana is very much about duality. It's where we meet duality in the body. And that two horns become at the top of the mountain of initiation, when the connection to the higher self and the soul becomes the single focus, the single horn of the unicorn. And that is the transcendent process that very much is happening and begins as that Kundalini energy starts to rise up and open up Svadhisthana from the root. So I'm just going to share a screen so that you can see a little bit more information. Aha, there you go. So the color associated with Svadhisthana is orange, and this is associated with nurturing, being receptive, and especially the emotions. Svadhisthana, the symbol that you see up here is a 6-petaled lotus, and then within the center is a white circle symbolizing the element of water. And then you see in the center of that circle, you have a light blue crescent moon. And often you have a little creature called a makara, who has like a fish tail that coils very like the Kundalini energy. And this water creature represents our sexual desires and passions, which are a danger only when ignored or suppressed or repressed. And this is very much our animal nature. So Svadhisthana is moving from the group, from the tribe, up into us becoming more individual, and we have this duality developing. So the water element is very much about fluidity, flow, about surrender, corresponds in our physical body to the bladder, to the circulatory system of the heart and the blood, to the sexual and the reproductive organs. Water is receptive. So what water does is it adopts to the shape of whatever container it's in, or whatever, you think of a river forms, whatever channels that river. And this ability to adapt of water, it follows the path, it will always follow the path of least resistance. Yet as it does so, as it flows, it gains power and momentum. And so the same is in the body. The idea is water is akin to the emotions and the astral, the lower of the astral nature, the emotional body. And when we emote, when we feel and allow emotions to flow, we move energy out of the unconscious through our body and into the conscious mind. And this flow of consciousness charges the body, it cleanses our body, and it heals it. It also brings into our conscious awareness that which we were unconscious of. And you'll know yourself, sometimes in the height of some strong emotion, you will say something, or someone will say something that hits a note of truth. You're like, oh, and you know that to be true. You are now conscious of something that was hidden before this. So the movement of our life force energy when we emote is how we achieve change. If we never express our emotions, it is very difficult to change. When we block emotions, they remain unconscious. So we don't get this lovely healing and this flow and this transformation and moving forward. And we will then operate from a more habitual, conditioned way of being. And also these blockages require a lot of energy and they create tension in the body, and eventually they create dis-ease in the body. And in Alice Bailey's Esoteric Healing, which goes into depth about the origins of dis-ease and illness in the human body, she attributes, it says that at least 90% of all disease in mankind has an emotional causation at its root. And I think we're starting to embrace this more and more now when we start to look beyond just the mechanical, physical vehicle for the origins and the causes of some of the conditions that we suffer with. So the moon, this Svadhisthana is the chakra that really connects us to the moon, to the energy of the moon. And the moon relates to creativity. And this is the energy that shifts us from survival to nourishing the soul. So we're moving up into that which is sweeter. It pulls on the water element within us like it pulls on the tides and the cycles within our bodies respond. So even if someone is unaware of it, we are physically and emotionally and energetically affected by the moon. And many people experience their sleep changes. Many women's cycles are tuned to the moon. Many people feel that pull on the water. We are 70% water. The planet is 70% water. So if the moon can move the tides on this planet, it stands to reason that it can move water within us and have an effect. And the moon is the feminine. It's the hidden, unseen, unconscious, a darker, what we call yin energy. So the duality in this chakra is represented by the light and the dark sides of the crescent moon, where the tribal energy of the root chakra splits into the yin and yang, into the feminine and the masculine, suggesting we need to evolve beyond the group to establish oneself. But also in that yin and yang symbol, the idea that we cannot have just feminine, we're not in balance, cannot have just masculine, we have to have a balance of the two. And this is where this remit to find in our root race, in our particular time, one of the major glamours, one of the major mayas or illusions that we have to deal with are our sexual relations, are the way, the equality between the sexes, the relationships between the sexes, to develop right relations where those relations are based on love, not power. So we have an interplay at the moment where love and power have got mixed up in there. And this is something that we collectively, as well as individually, have to work through. It's one of the big ones for our time. And that yin yang symbol, where you have a little bit of the feminine within the masculine and a little bit of the masculine within the feminine, is a very powerful symbol for that balance. I want to just run through the archetypes associated with Svadhisthana. So in a very positive way, we'll start with the positive, the sovereign. The sovereign is when you allow the good things in life to be part of your everyday experience. Okay, so the sovereign, this chakra in balance, they would have a magnetic personality, and people tend to like to be with them. They see challenges as positive opportunities for growth and development, and they know that winter always turns into spring. So they trust that change. Life is bountiful. They can nurture their own desires as much as anybody else, and their attitude tends to attract to them fulfillment in life. So it's about feeling satisfied and fulfilled and reaching for those high aspirations. Whereas the martyr, it's not quite as bad as, I suppose, as the victim, which was the archetype for the root chakra. But the martyr shares the belief, like the victim, that they don't deserve anything better, but they're less likely to blame external situations like the victim. But in the martyr, you see no real desire for change. There's a passive acceptance of a life of suffering, and often a lack of regard for their own personal needs and desires. And mothers can very often develop into martyrs if they're not careful. Martyrs tend to be guilt-inducing in others and moan and whine, and we tend to not feel great around them because we feel guilty if we are embracing the sweetness in life, because they have resigned themselves to a life where they will not. So when this chakra is too open, people tend to be emotionally unbalanced and can be sexually addictive and very manipulative emotionally. When it's blocked, we can see someone who's very hard on themselves, very judgmental, critical. There's a lot of guilt, and perhaps overly sensitive. Sometimes if someone has had some kind of experience in a previous life or this life or as a child of some kind of power play around sexuality, around they will block. We will, as a protective thing, there will be a block in this chakra. So quite often therapists work through sexual or sexual abuse issues or power issues to do with sex. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse. It can be a father or a mother figure who there was a power issue in the family. And with the release and the unblocking, the person, it's a beautiful process to see. The person just starts to flower and they will embrace the good things in life. And we often see an amazing healing. So when this chakra is balanced, the person is trusting, expressive. This is very much about your creative, and I'm going to talk about the energy moving from the sacral up to the throat, because in Svadhisthana we express creatively who we are. A person tends to be attuned to their own feelings. So some of the physical dysfunctions we associated with a potential problem in this chakra and the energy flow through this chakra are bladder, prostate problems, quite often lower back pain. And I mentioned this last time, especially if both the root chakra, the base chakra, and the Svadhisthana are not functioning so well, or the energy isn't flowing when your survival is threatened, but there is a lack of emotional expression and creative energy and solutions. So perhaps you've lost your job and you've plummeted. You can't find creative ways to see yourself getting another job. You can't see this as an opportunity. Perhaps anything that really challenges our fundamental survival needs for security and safety. So you can see trust comes into both the root chakra and the sacral. So quite often, if one or other of these is out of balance, the other one tends to be as well. That's just from my experience with working with people. Quite often, you know, sexually transmitted diseases, frigidity, impotence, these sort of problems can be related to blocks or the energy moving through Svadhisthana. Emotional dysfunctions, an unbalanced sex drive, instability, feelings of isolation, because this is the chakra where we start to connect with other people, and we start to connect especially with a more intimate partner as we grow up and develop. So a few other things about that. There's a natural development or flow of energy over a lifetime, over many lifetimes. And I think I mentioned last week, there's a flow from the base chakra to the crown. There's a flow from the sacral Svadhisthana to the throat, and a natural flow from solar plexus to the heart. And these come about in their own time, in their own way. But in the past, there was an idea in many religious beliefs that celibacy was a way to greater consciousness. And the idea was you block the Svadhisthana, or the flow of energy, the sexual expression of the sacral chakra, and that would move the energy up into the throat chakra, which is very much an expression of ideas, of higher ideas, of truth, and there would be an enhancement of that spiritual development. But the trouble is, and this also was something that came about when we moved from sacrificing animals to the gods to sacrificing our sexuality instead. Sort of, if you look back through, so there was a renouncement by monks to become free of karma, because the Svadhisthana is probably the chakra where we see the most karma. Okay, so where our karma, our family karma, our karma as a humanity plays out, and this is the chakra where there can be immense healing of those karmic issues. So the idea that asceticism or sacrifice would, or that not having children meant that monks could lead a more dedicated spiritual life, and that celibacy preserved the bodily strength and energy to be expressed by the higher centers. But the trouble is that when you block the flow through this chakra, that celibacy, enforced celibacy, not natural celibacy, tends to enforce separateness, a lack of connection, a lack of understanding, and sexuality can be a very powerful way for breaking down and dissolving barriers. And frustrated sexuality, I mean, it can be the origins of lower back pain and leg cramps and kidney problems, poor circulation, stiffness through your hips to your knees, to feel lifeless, to feel cut off from our wholeness and our inner sense of satisfaction and peace. So it's not about control and cutting down or not allowing energy to flow through this chakra by the expression of who you are in a sexual way, but rather the balance. So it's not about control, it's about balance. It's about the honor everything and be a slave to nothing. Okay, so it's when we've learned how to handle our sexual power, to keep a balance in our relationships, and to turn base urges into a willing use of energy in the service of others. When it becomes a connection of love with no power play going on, and we can develop this. We've seen it through history. We can start to develop a true equality and a true respect between the sexes, between men and women, between woman and woman, between men and men. So this, like I said, this chakra more than any other is where we find the force of karma, and we work through this karma through our relations with others. And these are the very most intimate relations. So what I have found, this in modern times, this issue of moving the sacral energy up to the throat, what I have found, and this is purely my observation, I haven't found anything in wisdom teaching or science to particularly back up this, but I found that many women who have trouble in the menopause and have a lot of symptoms that go on for a long time, sometimes it is a block in that flow of energy, the natural flow. As you give up your reproductive function and that energy naturally flows up, you go from creating new life in the sacral to creating your life and expressing your ideas and your truth and stepping into more that you are. And quite often when there's a reluctance to give up that reproductive function, or a feeling like they're not going to be their full expression of a woman, or there's issues around having children and around sexuality, I have found that when I work with people with energy, if I start just unblocking that energy between these two chakras, often those menopausal symptoms just go. So that's just my observation. That's not based on anything that I've read. So it's about balance. So this is the chakra where we become very aware of the duality and finding that middle way through. Very aware of the masculine and the feminine, and finding that beautiful yin-yang balance between the two of them. It's about the balance of expressing who you are without becoming attached to that being who you are. It's about still enjoying the sweet things in life, still embracing all the abundance and all that life has to offer down on this planet, while still lifting up to those higher aspirations of the soul. So it's very much, we don't deny our physicalness, we don't deny our body, but we don't overly attach or indulge in that either. So it's very much about finding a balance in Svadhisthana. And like I say, it's a difficult one. It's not always one. It's one that it's much easier for me to talk about this. There are times when it wouldn't have been so okay for me to be talking in this way. But remember, sexual energy is creative energy, and whether it expresses in a sexual way or a creative way is up to you. It's still the same energy, and it still needs to flow, and that's the key. And that focusing on that idea that allowing emotions to flow actually helps It keeps our body healthy. It helps to keep our subtle energy, keeping that vitality in the physical body. But it also very powerfully is that opportunity for healing, of enabling you to dip down into your unconscious mind and bring into the light that which was in the darkness, that which was often ruling and driving your behaviors, but you are unaware of it. And then you have the opportunity to heal that, to transmute, and to move and grow and develop towards a higher expression of who you are. So there's a lot to do with Svadhisthana. So the base chakra was the first yang, masculine. This is the first yin, feminine. And there's always, you know, as we go up the chakras, they alternate between yin and yang. But the two lower chakras are open in most of humanity. The lower three are. And this one probably causes more problems, to be honest, because power is starting to get mixed in into relations, and to develop right relations to do with Svadhisthana is something that's our remit, both individually and collectively. So I hope that gives you a good understanding of what's going on. And if you've got any further questions, you can ask me those after our meditation. So we will get ready for group meditation now. Oops. Oh, that was the thing I was going to just briefly. So orange, just looking through this chart, if there's anything. Pluto is the ruling planet to do with the sacral. We've got Cancer and Scorpio coming in there, the sense of taste. And then these, so we've got some essential oils that work especially to bring Svadhisthana into balance. We've got some crystals. These are some of the associations, some of the problems to do with liquids. And it tends to be the Svadhisthana, the issues around Svadhisthana is when our sexuality first starts to emerge, we move from childhood into adolescence. So I can make this available to you as a handout on the recording. So now we'll move into the group meditation. So if you get yourself comfortable, you want to be sitting upright, ideally, but not rigid, just so that the chakras are aligned and they're vertical, and we can develop this vertical alignment. Okay, so let everything that I've been talking about go. Let it just fade away. And we'll come into this moment and into this group, this opportunity for a group meditation. So I want to bring us together by repeating the affirmation of love. So either listen to me or repeat it quietly to yourself. In the center of all love, I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad within my heart, in my group, and throughout the world. Now I invite you to gently close your eyes, and we'll begin by grounding our energy. So I want you to imagine that you're sending a connection, an energetic connection down into the earth, either through your feet or through the base chakra, the very base of your spine. So just feel that connection. And now I want to come into this present moment by becoming aware of your physical body. So just be aware of your your body sitting on the chair. Be aware of the clothes on your skin, the touch of your fingers. And then turn your awareness to the sounds of this moment. Just let them come in. So there is an acceptance of this moment as it is. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Just watching the breath as it comes into your body, watching the breath as it leaves. Just allow your body to begin to relax, so that with each breath you take that breath a little deeper. And you can imagine that the breath is opening a channel deep in the center of your chest. Now keep a gentle focus on your breath. And just allow it to take you inward. So if your mind becomes distracted, as soon as you realize, just come back to the breath. And come back with loving kindness. And just allow the breath to take you into a quiet place, a stillness within. So thoughts will still run in your mind, but they just come into your mind and they gently pass through. And you keep a focus on the breath. Now bring your focus to the center of the chest. I want you to imagine you're breathing into your heart center. So as you gently breathe in, imagine a beautiful lotus bud. And as you breathe, that bud is slowly opening to reveal its 6 beautifully formed, pure white petals. And there is a feeling of opening and expansion in your chest and in your heart. Imagine that your heart is now open to fill with light and with love. A powerful way to open your heart is to fill your awareness with gratitude. So just let feelings of gratitude open your heart. Just focus on that which you are grateful for. Now imagine that you are connecting with your highest self. I want you to bring white or violet, purple or gold light, whichever resonates with you, down from your higher self. Imagine it is pouring in through the crown of your head and down through all the major energy centers or chakras in your body. Bringing them into a beautiful connection and an interplay. Imagine that your heart acts as a vessel to receive and distribute this light and love throughout your body. So let your whole body fill with this purifying, cleansing, healing light, strengthening you physically, strengthening your immune system, bringing calm, clear and poise to your emotions, insight and understanding to your mind. Feel as if all the parts of you are connecting and filling with light and love. So fill your whole physical body and then let it radiate out into the energy field or the etheric body, the aura that surrounds your physical body. So you are a being of light and love. Now allow this energy to flow out and to fill your home, nourishing all who reside there. Allow this energy now to flow out into your street, your neighborhood. Again, touching the hearts and minds of all who reside. Let it flow out to fill your community, radiating out to fill the town or the city in which you live. Now imagine that it joins with the light and love of all who are joining us today in this group meditation, both live and through the recording, so that we are working together from the heart. And we are working together to fill this nation with the energy of light and love and the will to good. And let it radiate out with power to fill this part of the world. See or feel it fill the whole of this hemisphere of our world. Now imagine it encompassing the whole world. Imagine you can see the whole planet surrounded by this light as we join with all those groups throughout the world working in this way. See our beautiful blue-green planet as if from space, and see this beautiful aura of light surrounding her. See it flowing down into heal and restore the balance in nature, so that the air and the water are purified, they're clean. Our earth can breathe. See our planet healed. See our relationship with our planet evolve. See all the animal and plant life flourishing. See mankind developing right relations as the custodian of the animal and plant life. Now see this light flow into the hearts and minds of all of mankind, consciously and unconsciously. Let this energy bring peace, goodwill, and right relations both within each and every person, between people, within families, communities, nations, between nations, between all of mankind as a family. Lifting our awareness and the collective consciousness of all, so that we may find a way to live with peace and harmony. Visualize these energies unifying and eliminating all divisions within humanity, healing and transforming human consciousness, and establishing right human relations. Hold a vision. Hold a vision for the way that we will live. Hold a space in your heart and let this energy radiate out from your being. And continue to hold a space, joined in brotherhood with all those who work in this way. And now I invite you to repeat the great invocation with me, the world prayer. Pausing between each stanza to imagine the energies playing out. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Ooh. 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 Now slowly bring your energy back into your own energy body. And just take a few moments to just come back into the room, back into an awareness of your body, and to open your eyes when you're ready. Namaste. Now, if anyone has any questions or any comments, you can either pop it in the chat or you can wave and I will ask you to unmute and you can fire away. Anything to ask about Svadhisthana or anything related, or anything to share about your experience of the group meditation? Because I know a few of you have been communicating to me about how you really feel the power of the energy in this group meditation, because it is something that is very special and it is a strong energy. Especially the more we work together, that builds. So you might even find you're experiencing more of that. So let me have a look. As usual, you all look a bit bedazzled, but that's okay. Okay. Well, what I'll do while you're collecting your thoughts, next week, the Wednesday is the Virgo full moon. So I'm going to get Ted Capstick to come and talk to us on the Thursday evening, because we're still in the energy. So the most effect of the full moon energy is the 48 hours before the actual full moon. And I think it's 6:22 a.m. on Wednesday morning. And for 48 hours after, that is the sort of window of opportunity when the energy of the full moon is at its most intense. So he will be coming along next week to share some insights, especially on what's going on with Virgo at the moment. And you may feel that shift into the Virgo energy. But there's a lot else going on, so it's hard to negotiate the waters of life at the moment, but hopefully this understanding of the chakras just gives you some of the insights that does help. It's like, that's why that's like that. That's why. And you might even look back and remember a time, you know, I'll be perfectly honest. I can remember a time, for example, Svadhisthana, bladder problems. Sometimes people can be getting UTIs all the time, and it's because in their intimate relationships, they are pissed off. Excuse my language. They are not able to express, so their body is expressing. So it can be that fundamental and that basic. Your chakras are there to allow energy in, and when they're not doing that in the best way possible, your body lets you know. Okay, so there's always an emotional causal factor going on there somewhere, and that's for your intuitive seeking to find out what it is and to put those pieces together and to move through and learn and grow through that process. So it can be a fascinating one. Okay, well, if no one's got any questions, I will leave that there and say thank you very much for those who were able to come live, and thanks to those who are joining us in the recording, and namaste.